First one tonight is presentation by Vireo, landscape architects on our dog park. Justin?
Mayor, City Council, I'm excited to present to you hopefully what will be our close to final plan for the dog park. We've been working with Vireo for about 4 or 5 months now, and tonight we have Madeline Onofrio and Stephen Rosewitz in the audience, and they will take you through a little slide presentation, and show you kind of what we came up with, and then at the end we'll take some questions and go from there. So, guys, come on up.
Good evening. So I'm Maddie Onofrio. This is Steve Rosewitz. He's a principal and owner at Vireo, and I'm a landscape designer. So we're here to present the dog park, and we're from a planning design company called Vireo down in the River Market in downtown. So our project scope for this started with some staff meetings, involved some staff meetings. We had 2 conceptual options, and then we were scoped to do 2 public meetings, which ended up being an open house and then the pop-up meeting at the Dunkin' Dogs event over at the pool. And then we were supposed to design a final plan, have capital costs and some operation and maintenance sort of plans for the dog park, as well as presentation of this process in the final plan. Our project schedule was kickoff in April of this year, and we began to develop the concepts, and we had staff meetings throughout at pivotal moments so we could make sure we were in the right direction, we were meeting all of the design criteria we'd like. We had the open house on July 10th here at the community center. There's about 40 people who came, and then we had the Dunkin' Dogs event on August 24th over at the pool. So initially, we had about 6 concepts. Some of them didn't include a parking lot, some did. Some used the existing parking lot over at Happy Rock. We had some that the parking came off of 76, some came off of Antioch. So these were we came back to the staff at the Public Works, Tim, and Parks Director, Justin. And from those 6 concepts, we whittled down to these 2. We have Concept A and Concept B. They both have 2 large dog areas and a small dog area. They both have around 27, 29 parking spots with 2 ADA stalls each. So those were the 2 concepts that we took to the open house. We had about 40 people participate. We had a welcome board and something about the project schedule, how to stay involved, as well as some typical amenities that we usually include in dog parks as part of the design. It was a 2-hour open house, and everybody was very excited, very happy and positive about this dog park. There were a lot of ideas, a lot of comments that came from this. So these were some of those comments that we got. Some want a lot of trails, some want bathrooms, some would like to see a dog rent station or shower station. They were concerned that it was a little smaller than the North Kansas City Dog Park, but I think combined we're a little bit bigger. With the 2 large dogs and the small dog, we're a little bit bigger than North Kansas City, which I think a lot of Gladstone residents are using currently, or they would have to go to Parkville or Riverside or Liberty. They go to Liberty as well. So I think this is very well needed in the community. They liked Concept B the most. That's what we gathered from this input meeting, is that they liked the separation of the small dog and the large dog with that one-way road that enters from Antioch over to 76. And then they loved the trees. They love how shady it's going to be. We're going to try to keep as many existing trees as we can. We're going to have to clear out the end of brush, but overall very positive. So after we picked Concept B from the open house, we were confirmed in that. We went and refined the final design a little bit. The fence in between the 2 large dog areas became a temporary movable fence, something they could take up and down or move. So, and the reason for the fence in the first place was so you could rotate those 2 areas so the grass can grow back or the mud could dry, so you can rotate that. I don't know if both will be open all the time or at the same time, but that's the reason for that. So now it's gonna be like a movable softball fence, and that was to reduce costs a little bit. And we moved the north buffer down 25 more feet, to get 50 feet of distance between the houses to the north and the dog park fence. That was also for cost reasons, but just, so if there were residents who had some problems with it, we would say we're giving them plenty of space, and there might be like a vegetation buffer between. And then we added some concrete pads around the double gated entries for the small dog and the large dog. So that's so when the dogs just, take off, we can keep that grass kind of looking nicer, that area looking nicer, and there's a place for people to stand and sit while their dog is playing. So this was our final plan. It was more of an informational session. This is the final plan. We had about 40 more people come and talk to us, and they're all just very excited. They couldn't wait for this to open. We're shooting for next summer, hopefully construction being completed, but there might be done in phases with some grading and like the parking lot going in, hopefully maybe in the fall, and then the trees and grasses being planted or the seed going in the early spring. We were also, in the scope, asked to come up with some branding ideas. These were initial ideas. I think we really were just wanting to play off of the Happy Rock Park name. So it could be Happy Pup Park, Happy Paws Park. We haven't gotten too deep into that, but that's something we're working for. And then we'll have some signage hopefully that plays into this naming of the park. That could also be an opportunity for some donors or sponsorships or something involved in the signage and the naming of it. So the final plan design, some of the details. The small dog would be a 4-foot height fence, and the large dog was 6-foot height, and that's to reduce costs a little bit. We'll have a concrete mow curb under all of the fencing, except for that temporary middle fence between the 2 large dogs. That's so the fence doesn't get damaged by mowers or dogs can dig out. So that's one of our big cost drivers, as well as like the grading to get out of that big mound we have from that old shooting range back there. So that's some of the costs. And then this will include the asphalt parking, 2 water fountains, some dogway stations, and a couple benches. And hopefully maybe if there's another phase or more money comes in, there could be some shade structures or something that could be put in over those concrete pads at those entrances. So our final deliverables that we're currently working on, we're trying to make a construction document that includes a site plan, layout plan, grading, quantities, details, with our grand total of $576,000. That's including a 10% contingency and a 12% contingency on a mobilization fee. When we were shooting for 575, so just a little bit over with some of those contingencies, but I think it will be okay with some of the details we're working on still. So that is the dog park plan. I'm wondering if you have any questions?
No?
Thank you, Mayor. You'll be pleased to know that the presentation answered my long list of questions that I had.
From it's simple, try to answer
Which is perfect. I had questions about the fencing, the height of the fencing, whether we're going to just do some galvanized chain link fencing or trying to do something fancier, because that's a lot of fencing.
It's a lot of fencing.
And I'm assuming that the cost estimate between that and the concrete base,
Yes, that's a lot of it.
that's a lot of it.
Yeah.
And there is going to be some sort of a path around the perimeter, even like maybe a gravel path or just something so you can walk around it, or it's just gonna all be natural?
Currently, that could be in a phase 2. We've been told that that's something that's really desired by the community. We're thinking maybe that's something the community kind of does, like a cow trail, possibly, and they would show us where they would like the trail. So that's not currently in the final plan, but.
Yeah, I don't know that we need a concrete trail around it, but I think most of the dog parks I've been to, there's at least a concrete trail around the perimeter, for chasing after your dog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lighting, is there gonna be some lighting at least in the parking lot or something?
Currently, no, there's not any, but that could be something that's added.
Okay. I've done a bunch of perimeter fencing in my time, and lighting can get to be expensive. also. I think that was it. I was also interested in the connection to the animal shelter, and you've included that I didn't see in the original concept plan. We got the fresh water, we got the benches, all of those were things that I was hoping to see, so thank you.
And I think some of the lighting might not come into play because it's probably a dawn to dusk for the park situation, but if you want it to open longer, we could look at some lighting.
Yeah, so that's probably how we want to operate, is dawn to dusk, obviously. Maybe some lighting just for security aspect of overnight, if you will, for vandalism and what have you. Secondly, to kind of answer some of the other questions related to the, I'll call them alternates, if you will, Councilman Garza. We'll place those on an alternate list, and as we kick off construction, if there's money to be able to afford some of those other items, we'll kind of pick and choose what fits in best and what we can afford.
Right. Thank you.
Mayor, the only comment I would have, excuse me, is to look at and get an idea of what cost of the shade structures would be. I think that's a big piece of it, right? And it might be a phase 2 type of implementation, but knowing what that is and being able to prep for it is.
I think it's kind of in one of our ad alternates, so we've kind of looked at pricing for those, so.
Yeah, I think both for the dogs and the owners, right?
And we had some of those shade trees by the parking lots, sort of shade a little bit of the large dog areas, but.
And I'm assuming that the small dogs could possibly go to the large dogs, but large dogs can't come to the small dogs like a typical Justin's Green.
Yes.
And we do have a lot of those program-related ideas to work through and finesse, but yes, exactly right. We'll put together just similar to other parks how they operate.
Yeah.
My only question is about the temporary fence in the middle. Just having so much experience with the ball field fences, we know that they can get loose and, fall down. How do we keep that stretched tight every single day and make sure that it is effectively working?
So that's another good question. Again, if we can put in as an ad alternate an actual permanent fence separate, that'd be great. But again, due to budget constraints, we kind of remove that just to make sure we can get out the gate and run with the project. But yes, we would have to watch that day in and day out. But if a dog gets over in the other side, if you will, it's all locked down regardless. So it's not like a dog's going to get out and run off. It's just going to get in that area we're trying to protect and regrow turf. So not the end of the world per se, but not the best either.
So, and the only other question I have is grass regeneration. How do we continually keep grass regenerating in these areas that are high trafficked areas? Will you shut down one area and
yes,
go to the next?
That's the whole idea with that temporary fence. We would only have 2 acres open at a time.
Okay.
We could have all 4 of them. If we start experiencing that, then yes, shut half down, keep it shut down for 4 weeks or what have you, get that growth back and then open it back up and alternate.
Any other questions?
So I guess, Justin, this comes to you. So this will be Parks crew, because we're talking about lots of details here. We're talking about moving a fence, we're talking about all that, watching stuff. So Parks people?
Yes, correct. Unless Tim wants to offer some proof.
I just want to also just say how pleased I am that we've had so much community involvement in this, because this is a big decision. This is something that our residents have wanted for a really long time, and so I think this is the Gladstone way. This is the way we do things and get input from our residents, and I just so kudos to everybody for making that happen. Thank you.
And we couldn't have picked a better firm to work with. Having worked with you guys personally, very excited to do this with you all. I know it'll be an outstanding project and you'll see it to the end. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next topic is public officials ethics and conflicts interest training. Chris Williams.
Oh, there it is. Okay, success. Mayor, members of the council, as the memo in your packet states, the city's insurer, Midwest Public Risk, asks that every 2 years we do a public officials liability training. Bob wouldn't give me 2.5 hours tonight, so I did 8 minutes. I had to reduce my PowerPoint from 80 slides to a lot fewer. No, just kidding. But, so what we're gonna talk about, got the right, there we go, is ethics and conflict of interest. The sources of authority that we're dealing with on these issues is the Missouri Constitution, in particular on the anti-nepotism provisions in their state statutes about conflicts of interest. City code actually has a conflict of interest provision that basically just follows the state law. And then there's just the, quote, appearance of impropriety. So specifically what we'll talk about briefly here is how these ethics laws are enforced, the state constitution, anti-nepotism provision, and then the conflict of interest laws. The ethics laws are enforced by the Missouri Ethics Commission. We also, I think it's fair to say that they're also enforced by public opinion through the appearance of impropriety. That's something, you know, quite frankly, if public officials are not behaving in an ethical manner, even if they're technically not violating the law, the appearance of impropriety may lead to someone not being, continuing in office at the next election. So it's good to point that out. Missouri Ethics Commission has jurisdiction over the conflict of interest laws. That means the Constitution, state law, or even the city ordinance. They can enforce our city ordinance also through proceedings. So the areas we're going to talk about are nepotism, quid pro quo, confidential information, and it's called special monetary benefit. Anti-nepotism, that's the provision from the Missouri Constitution. This basically has to do with an elected official such as you all participating in appointing someone to a public office or to employment, and that's prohibited by the Missouri Constitution. And it applies when you're dealing with, and this gets confusing, like it says there, what relatives are covered. It's the fourth degree of consanguinity or affinity. Consanguinity is by blood relationship, affinity is by marriage. The fourth degree, the easiest way to do it is the Missouri Ethics Commission has a chart that shows here's what the fourth degree is. Just to give you an idea, going one direction from you is your great-great-grandparent. The other direction is your great-great-grandchild. That's the fourth degree, so it's everything in between there. But the bottom line is if you have questions about, if you are involved in a matter where you're acting on the appointment of someone to, say, the planning commission, that's a relative, come and just ask us and we'll work through it with you. Because you don't want to participate in that process, because the penalty is you're found to have violated that, you forfeit your office immediately. And there's a note there from a case, even if, you know, there's 5 of you, even if there's a vote and you participate in it, it's 5-0, and it would have passed even if you didn't vote, court said, doesn't matter, you can't participate. So that's kind of like the death penalty, almost penalty for this kind of thing. Quid pro quo, that's something for something. A favor or advantage granted and expected in return for something. For example, here's an example we've used. A lobbyist takes a councilman to lunch and she pressures them to vote no on an ordinance. She pays for lunch. Is it okay for her to do that? Can the council member still vote? The answer is you can accept the lunch as long as you're not doing so in exchange for the vote. But this gets into the issue that we talked about earlier. That has the appearance of impropriety and just isn't advisable. Confidential information. You all receive confidential information from time to time on various things. Can't use that to create a financial gain for yourself or anyone else. Essentially what we're talking about here is like insider trading. That's the simplest way to explain it. That's prohibited by state law. A special monetary benefit, you can't use your office to create a special monetary benefit. So what that means, you can't act, like it says, favorably on any matter that will provide a special monetary benefit to you your spouse, or a dependent child. That's all that applies to. Special monetary benefit means you or your spouse or dependent child would be materially affected in a substantially different manner or degree than the general public or a class of persons to be affected. An example is you got a council member whose husband has worked in public works for years before she was elected. Council's going to going through the budget, going to give raises to all employees. Everybody's going to get a 3% raise in public works, including her husband. Can she participate in it? And as it says, can she participate in the performance evaluation? The answer is she can vote on the budget because the 3% raise applies to all employees. It's not focused just on her husband. But conversely, she should not take part in her husband's performance review, especially if his raise is dependent upon that evaluation. So I know a lot of this is just a refresher for you all, and it's common sense, but still good to just run through it again. Compensated advocacy while holding office, she can't be hired by another person to attempt to influence the decision of the city. For example, and I didn't catch this, it says Councilmember Smith, but it does say she. So Councilmember Smith's an engineer, and she has a developer client who needs approval of a plat. She's prohibited from representing the developer client for pay in the plat proceedings, Planning Commission, City Council. Pretty straightforward. So that's it. That's the quick version. Any questions? And again, this was intended to be a refresher. I know you all know all of this, but we're meeting our obligation of complying with NPR's request.
We certainly appreciate it, Chris. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well done.
We'll start the council meeting in about 3 minutes. I'd like to welcome you to the regular city council meeting for September 9th, 2024, 7:30 p.m. Please rise and join me for the, just one moment, sorry, Madam Clerk. Mayor Pro Tem Smith is gone this evening. He's out of town, but we do have a quorum for the rest of the evening, so good to go. Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is item number 4, the approval of the agenda. If there are no objections or changes to the agenda, it will stand as presented. Are there any objections? Thank you. It will stand as presented. Item 5, approval of the August 26, 2024 closed city council meeting minutes.
Mayor Spallo.
Councilmember Moore.
I move for the approval of the closed city council meeting minutes of August 26, 2024.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the closed city council meeting minutes from August 26, 2024. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the closed city council meeting minutes from August 26, 2024 stand approved as published. Next item, item 6, approval of the August 26, 2024 regular city council meeting minutes.
Mayor Swallow.
Councilmember Davis.
I move to approve the regular city council meeting minutes from August 26, 2024 as published.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the regular city council meeting minutes from August 26, 2024. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the regular city council meeting minutes from August 26, 2024 stand approved as published. Our next item is a proclamation. We're going to welcome the William Boydston chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. Tonight we have Christy Newhall, the regent, Jean McHenry, Carrie English, Janice Tillman, and Susan Dowden. Please join me at the front of the dais. I'm going to read this proclamation this evening and for Constitution Week. So, whereas September 2024 marks the 237th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating a Constitution Week in September. Now therefore, I, Tina M. Spallo, Mayor of the City of Gladstone, Missouri, on behalf of the members of the Gladstone City Council and all Gladstone residents, do hereby recognize the week of September 17th through September 23rd, 2024 as Constitution Week, and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideas the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties, remembering that lost rights may never be regained. Congratulations. Who would like to take that? Thank you. Would you like to say some words?
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Well, let's take a group photo here. Okay. Oh, yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again, ladies. We appreciate you coming up tonight. Thank you. Our next item of business is item number 8, communications from the audience. Members of the public are invited to speak about any topic not listed on the agenda. While speaking, please state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 5 minutes.
Hi, Bert Comstock, 7600 North Park Avenue, Gladstone, Missouri. Not here to address anything. Actually, I'm here to say thank you to the city council, city manager, and to our police department. As you all know, the last couple council meetings I've been here with some concerns about traffic on 76 and speeding, running the stop signs, etc. But I have been in contact with the police department, and I know there are some things being done, and I just want to say thank you for listening and hearing our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you too. Is there anyone else from the audience that would like to speak this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to communications from the City Council. Councilmember Davis.
I have nothing this evening, Mayor. Sorry.
Thank you. Councilman Garnos.
Nothing from me, Mayor, thank you.
All right. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say thank you to those who attended the Glad Green team on Saturday, and a special thanks to Councilman Garnos and his wife Lori, who loyally came out again. So I just want to encourage everybody. I know you're sick of hearing me talk about this, but first Saturday of every month we do the Glad Green team, and so get yourself on our email list. We'd love to have volunteers. We clean up different areas of the city. You can come for as long or as short as you want. We do it from 8 to 10. We provide all the equipment. So it's a fun time, and I do think we are making a difference in making Gladstone a more beautiful place.
Absolutely. Thank you. I had the opportunity to attend the Neighborhoods Commission meeting, the monthly meeting, this past Tuesday evening, since we had a holiday. And the topic that evening was the neighborhood grant program that they are currently participating in and managing. And we received 32 applications so far. Of those 32, 17 did not qualify. City staff are working with several of the others that are providing justification documents to make sure that they qualify, and also conducting site visits at this time of some of the homes. So it's going very well. Thank you, Alan, for heading that up. And I think that the Neighborhoods Commission is very excited to get to the final process of awarding those grants to these people that really need some help, whether it be with a roof or a foundation, or just simple projects like putting in handrails and things like that around their houses. So it's a great program, and I'm very glad to be a part of that as the liaison for the group. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't recognize that this Wednesday is September 11th, and that we need to remember all that were lost that day. So I'd like a moment of silence. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item number 10, communications from the city manager.
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to item 11, consent agenda. Madam Clerk, will you please explain and read the consent agenda?
A consent agenda allows the City Council to consider and approve routine items of business without discussion. Any member of the City Council, the city staff, or the public may request removal of any item from the consent agenda and request that it be considered under the regular agenda if discussion or debate of the item is desired. Items not removed from the consent agenda will stand approved upon motion by any council member, second and unanimous vote, to approve the consent agenda as published or modified. Consent agenda. Consider special event permits. Seventh-day Adventist Church will be hosting a health and wellness expo. Gladstone Community Center, 6901 North Holmes, Sunday, September 29, 2024, 10 o'clock a.m. to 3 o'clock p.m. Resolution R-24-59, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Zoll Medical Corporation for the purchase of a 3-year extended warranty and preventative maintenance plan for all 6 Zoll X Series cardiac monitors in service with the Gladstone Fire Department in the total amount of $31,338. Resolution R-24-60, a resolution authorizing acceptance of a proposal from Independent Salt Company for the purchase of snow removal salt.
Does anyone from the audience, city council, or staff wish to remove any item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Here's follow.
Councilmember Davis.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda stands approved. Move on now to our regular agenda, item number 12. It's the first reading bill number 24-26, an ordinance approving the final plat of a minor subdivision replat of part of Lot 3, Commissioner's Plat of Palmer Home in Gladstone, Clay County, Missouri, and directing the appropriate officials to affix their signatures to said plat for recording. Tonight, Austin Greer is going to give an explanation of this, and not to repeat himself, it will be the same explanation he would be giving us during the public hearing, so we'll just have to hear it once.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. Mr. Roger Wilson is requesting a replat and rezone of 1.49 acres located at 300 Northeast 58th Terrace. Mr. Wilson plans to keep Lot 1, which is 1 acre, and sell Lot 2, which is 0.49 acres, which has an existing building, parking spaces, and a playground. Historically, the building located on Lot 2 has been operated as a private child care facility in an existing non-conforming way, but is the incorrect zoning for this type of use. Since the property is being replatted and sold, city staff and the applicant believe that this is an opportune time to remedy the split zoning situation and bring the property into compliance with a private childcare and school type of use. Mr. Wilson has shared with city staff that Lot 2 is currently under contract to be sold to Alicia and Darren Jones, who own Brighton Learning Center, which is a private childcare facility. Mr. and Mrs. Jones operate 2 other childcare facilities within the city of Gladstone and are looking to expand once again at this location. Currently, this property is a split zoning of R3 garden apartment residential and CPO planned district non-retail and otherwise called office space. In order to legally operate a private school or child care facility, Lot 2 will need to be rezoned to CP1 planned local business district. Given the property's close proximity to North Oak Trafficway, commercial corridor, and its surrounding zoning designations and uses, it is city staff's opinion that rezoning this property from CPO to CP1 is an adequate solution. City staff recommends that the request be approved. Also, the Planning Commission voted unanimously in favor of both projects, and I believe the vote was 10-0. We actually have Mr. Roger Wilson in the audience with us tonight. He's sitting right over here to field questions. I'm not quite sure we'll have too much to add on top of what I already said. And then I believe we have Alicia Jones, who owns Brighton Learning Center, in the back. So if you guys have any questions, between the 3 of us, probably the 2 of us will field those. So thank you.
I will accept a motion for the first reading of bill number 24-26.
Mayor Spallo.
Councilmember Moore.
I move to place bill number 24-26 on its first reading.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to place bill number 24-26 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? All in favor of placing bill number 24-26 on its first reading, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
First reading bill number 24-26, an ordinance approving the final plat of a minor subdivision replat of part of Lot 3, Commissioner's Plat of Palmer Home in Gladstone, Clay County, Missouri, and directing the appropriate officials to affix their signatures to said plat for recording.
Mayor Spallo.
Councilmember Moore.
I move to accept the first reading of bill number 24-26, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to accept the first reading of Bill number 24-26, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading. Is there any discussion? All in favor of placing Bill number 24-26 on its second and final reading, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
Second reading Bill number 24-26, an ordinance approving the final plat of a minor subdivision replat of part of Lot 3, Commissioner's Plat of Palmer Home in Gladstone, Clay County, Missouri, and directing the appropriate officials to affix their signatures to said plat for recording.
Mayor Follow.
Councilmember Moore.
I move to accept the second reading of Bill number 24-26 and enact the bill as ordinance number 4.679.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to accept the second and final reading of Bill number 24-26 and enact the bill as ordinance 4.679. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Davis?
Aye.
Councilman Garnos?
Aye.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Mayor Spallo?
Aye. Bill number 24-26 stands enacted as ordinance number 4.679. Then we'll move on to item 13, which is a public hearing. The zoning change for Lot 2 of Commissioner's Plat of Palmer Home in Gladstone, Clay County, Missouri. We'll open the meeting. During the public hearing, we will hear first from staff, then from the applicant, followed by those in favor of the application, and then by those opposed to the application. We will skip staff presentation since we just heard it from Austin Greer. Were there any questions regarding that presentation? Okay. Would the applicant like to speak to the City Council?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Are there any audience members in favor of the proposed proposed bill? None? Any audience members opposed? I think this is the fastest public hearing we've done in a very long time. Seeing that there is no opposition, I will close the hearing. And we will move on to item number 14, first reading of Bill number 24-27, an ordinance approving a zoning change for Lot 2 of Commissioner's Plat of Palmer Home in Gladstone, Missouri, Clay County, Missouri.
Mayor Spallo.
Councilman Davis.
I move to place bill number 24-27 on its first reading.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to place bill number 24-27 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? All in favor of placing bill number 24-27 on its first reading, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
First reading Bill number 24-27, an ordinance approving a zoning change for Lot 2 of Commissioner's Plat of Palmer Home in Gladstone, Clay County, Missouri.
Mayor Spallo.
Councilman Davis.
I move to accept the first reading of bill number 24-27, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to accept the first reading of bill number 24-27, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading. Is there any discussion? All in favor of placing bill number 24-27 on its second and final reading, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
Second reading Bill number 24-27, an ordinance approving a zoning change for Lot 2 of Commissioner's Plat of Palmer Home in Gladstone, Clay County, Missouri.
Mayor Spallo.
Councilman Davis.
I move to accept the second and final reading of bill number 24-27 and enact the bill as ordinance 4.680.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to accept the second and final reading of bill number 24-27 and enact the bill as ordinance number 4.680. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Davis.
Aye.
Councilman Garnos.
Aye.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Mayor Spallo.
Aye. Bill number 24-27 stands enacted as ordinance number 4.680. Is there any other business to come in front of the city council tonight? Seeing none, we'll adjourn.